Hello soulmates, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be teaching you how to cut this off-shoulder crop top with a scallop neckline and a puff sleeve. So the inspiration is this picture by the right, and this is my recreation. So I used Ankara, but the inspiration was made with a Mikado fabric. So if this is something you're interested in, please like, comment, subscribe, and let's get started. So the first thing we'll be doing is to draft our pattern. So this is my pattern, and the first line here is my armhole, my bust, my under bust, my waist measurement. So now let's go ahead and draft our armhole. So this part will be very fast because of our time. So just the regular way of drafting your armhole, just go ahead and draft your armhole. So after you are done, the next thing is to go up to measure your chest line. So my own chest line is 6.5, so I'll just be marking it right here. Your chest line, you measure it at this point. So after you are done, it's time to draft our bustiers. So from your bust measurement, mine is 9, you go down by 3/4 inches, then you roll a short line across that point. So after you are done, you measure your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 from the line downward to the end of your top. Then you connect all the points together with a straight line. So after you are done with this, it's time to tighten our under bust. So at this side, I take out 1.1 inches, that is 1¼ inch, and at this smaller part I took out ½ inch. I did the same thing too for the other lines, but at this line here I took out 1 inch here and ½ inch here instead of 1 inch and quarter. So I just took out 1 inch at the end of the top. You can actually take out the 1 inch and ½ inch, it won't affect. So you connect all these points with a straight line. Then the next thing is to connect this part here with a French curve. Connect it to the point. Then you connect this other part with a straight line, just like the way I'm doing. So this part will be connected with a straight line to the new line we rolled below the bust line. So the next thing to do now is to roll another line across this chest line. So from this chest line that we rolled earlier, you take out 1 inch upward. You measure 1 inch upward from that line, so it will look like this. So that's the chest line in between. So the new line is the one on top. Then the next thing to do is to connect this other line from this bustier upwards to that new line. So if you are following my measurement, you know I told you my chest line is 6.5. So the new line will be 5.5 like that. So I'm connecting that line upward, then I'll take in 1¼ inches inward, then I will connect this other part to that part. I hope you understand. So the next thing is to measure our bust measurement divided by 4, your waist measurement divided by 4. Whatever you took out at this point, you add it back, then you connect it to this waist area. So at the lower part, whatever you have at this area all together, you just add 1 inches to it, then you connect it like this. So that is that about the basic measurement. So the next thing to do now is to start the slant and the scallop neckline. So before we do that, let me just highlight all these bustier points. So for the wideness of our neckline, I'm using 5. So what I did was to first measure these pieces I have, then the remaining part I just measure it at the other pieces. You know, in between there is a dart there, so that's why I skipped that part. So from this part here, that small part, and this rest of the pattern, everything all together is 5 inches. So now to draw the scallop neckline, we have to slant this like this. So this was what I first did, but After I did this, I noticed it would be wrong, so I changed the way I did it. You will see that very soon. So what I did was to cut this at this area. As you can see where I'm cutting it, not the slant area. So I cut this out. So the next thing I'll be doing is to fold out these darts. So I'll be folding it in. What else you can do is to just cut it out, then you use your masking tape to hold it. The best thing to do is to cut the darts out, then you hold it together with a masking tape. So after you are done, this is not the right time to now slant the neckline. I hope you get. So imagine if we were using that first slant we used with made, as you can see that it is not right at all, it is not correct. So you have to tape this down first before you slant the neckline. So whatever you have at the neckline, you divide it into four. So mine is 6 inches, so I first divided into three each, then I did 1.5 1.5. So for this part here, you will need an extension of your pattern paper because of the scallop edges. So at the middle point of the first 3 inches, we are dividing it into two. So for the first part, which is the 3 inches, you divide it into two again, that's 1.5. So this is three again, you divide it into two, that's 1.5. Then at each point, just rule out like half inch outward, like half inch to 3/4 inches outward. Just roll it out like that. So now you connect it together using your French curve. So I'm just marking 3/4 inches on the line in between the 3 inches. So we're having two scallop at this neckline. So in between each 3 inches, that's 1.5. You mark the 3/4 inches. Then I'll be using this part of my French curve to just draw the scallop edge. So this scallop edge is capturing this edge down to the other parts. So you do the same thing too for the other side. So after the taping, you make sure you cut out this pattern with the scallop edge. Even if it is not on the pattern paper, cut it out. That is why I tape this part down so that I can cut it together with it. So this is what it looks like now. Then you go ahead to cut out the remaining dots on your pattern paper. So after you are done with that, the next thing is to mark the length of our top. So my top length is 16 inches, that is 1 inches below my waistline. Then I'll be connecting this part to the edge of this top. So the length of this top is actually 18 inches, but because there's a curve at this area, so that is why I'm curving it too like this. So this is what the front bodies look like. So without wasting much time, let's just go ahead and cut our back bodies. So this is our back bodies, and this is just the basic back bodies. So at this area also, I just added 1 inch to the waist area measurement. So now for the neckline, depending on how deep you want your neckline to be, and if you want it to have the scallop edges or not. So for me, I want it to have the scallop edges, so I'll be marking 6 inches first. I'll be marking 6 inches at this point. Then I'll be marking another line. That's 5 inches. That's 4 inches rather. So I'm marking this line I'm ruling is 4 inches. The other one is 6 inches. So now I'll just be slanting this down. Why I made this neckline to be short is because of this scallop edges. So if I don't want to make a scallop edges, what I will actually do is to measure 6 inches and just do whatever I want to do, which I will explain later. So now the wideness of my back neckline is 9 inches. So 9 inches divided by 2, that's 4. So that is 4.5. So that was the point I marked here. So that is what I'm connecting at this area. So you just connect it to your armhole line. As you can see, there's zip allowance on my pattern paper. So after connecting the point together, it's time to make a slant. So from that 4 inches to that 6 inches, just make a slant line like this. So like we did for the back, you measure the line, then you divide it into 2. Don't measure the zipper allowance together with it, please. Skip the zip allowance for now. So you measure the line you have, you divide it into 2. Then so each one, so you divide it into 2 again, then you make the scallop edges. So at the middle of each of this line, you divide into 2 to make a point again. Then on that point, you just roll out like after 3/4 inches upward like this. After 3/4 inches upward. So from each point to the other point, you now make a curve. Like I said, don't make these scallop edges with your zipper allowance. Please don't do that. So this is what we have. Then it is time to cut it out. Before we cut it out, let's take out 1/4 inches from this zip allowance at the waist area. This is to prevent zip bulging. So just connect it like this. Yeah. Then you just cut it out. So like I was explaining earlier, that if you don't want your neckline for the back to have a scallop edge, so you can just use the 6 inches measurement. So it will be like this. So let's assume I'm using my 6 inches measurement. It will be like this. Then I'll measure the wideness of the neck I want to use. So me, I'm using 4.5, so I'll measure 4.5 and I'll just reconnect that line. So that line will change. So this is the back bodies and these are the front bodies. So it is time to cut our fabric and also our lining. Because I don't want this video to be too long, the sewing tutorial will be in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, share, and I'll see you in the next one.